Hey everybody, I'm Jack Reed of Future Pastimes, and in this video I want to talk about Karama, and I want to talk about whether or not Karama should be overhauled, especially if there is a new edition of Dune that is either part of Kwisatz Haderach or something further down the line. Now the Karama card is a special card. This is the original Avalon Hill version of it here, and this is what it looks like in the Gale Force 9 edition. It's kind of unfortunate that they couldn't use some artwork here for it, but because there's so much going on with the Karama. So what you can see on the card is a number of effects. After game setup, you can cancel or stop a faction advantage, including alliance abilities when a player attempts to use it. That's one thing. The next thing is that you can use the Karama card to purchase a shipment of forces at guild rates, and that can be for anybody. And another one is to basically get a treachery card for free in the bidding phase. And this is the revised Karama that has a little bit more about how you can actually bid up more spice without even having to reveal this card, something that I find very controversial. But there's a lot here, and this isn't even everything that it can do, because every faction, if you're playing advanced, has a once per game effect that is also unlocked by playing the Karama. And unfortunately, this is not an effect that is on the faction sheet. You have to find it in the rule book. And this precipitated a question recently on Board Game Geek that Ben asked, and that is whether or not you can use a Karama to cancel the once per game effect. And the answer to that is no, just in case people were wondering. That once per game effect cannot be canceled. So that's great, but there's a lot of questions about Karama that go above and beyond that. And part of that was addressed here in the first expansion rulebook. The last page, the back of it, has how does Karama stop? And it's divided into basic and advanced, and it's by faction. And this is, of course, only the 8 factions. The 2 expansions that came after this one have got some information on the back as well that says how does Karama stop or affect that. But as you can see, even with this, there's quite a bit. Atreides has got these 3, and it lets you know what it can do. There's no effect on that, no effect on some of these. Some of them you have to do it before or after. And this, even with this, it's still not 100% clear. So I wanted to share with you something that Brad Johnson sent to me, and it's the reference for the World Board Gaming Championships. And as you can see here, it's much more comprehensive. And it's by faction, but it's also by phase. So that in any phase, there's certain effects. But in the storm phase, in the spice blow, chome, who has which faction has an advantage, that's in there. And then what's the timing? Can it be affected at all? And it's great that they've got this broken down. And I believe that Banana Smasher, who ran the Dice Tower West Dune tournament, has something similar, comparable, perhaps even more comprehensive. But my question is, what in the world are we talking about here? Because this seems a little bit, speaking of bananas, this seems bananas to me. This is a little bit overboard. And if it were up to me, this would definitely get overhauled in a new edition of Dune. And hear me out in terms of what my approach would be. And this is something that came up in a discussion with some of the playtesters on some of these expansions. So this is not wholly on me. So if you love the idea, I'll be happy to take as much credit for it, although I can't really. So the people that are frequent guests on Battle Language bear some of that, especially if you hate the idea. Let's spread that hate around. But the idea here is that each faction would only have one advantage that can even be affected by Karama, and it would be marked on the faction sheet. In fact, I've done that with my physical faction sheets. I've had them printed and tweaked. I've tweaked some of the faction advantages a little bit here, a little bit there. Nothing wildly different. But one of the things I did was I changed it so that I've got this little symbol here, the eye, and that is on the faction sheet. And if it's at the start of an advantage, that means you have to do it. It's almost like preemptively. You've got to do it before the effect can be resolved, and that is usually for things like stuff that would happen, like the Sardaukar, for example, or an effect like that. Is you play it then, and that lets you know that you've got to affect the dialing. You do it before the battle plan is revealed, and if the symbol is after the effect, that means you get to know what the targeting is. So, for instance, you get to know what the voice is, or you get to know what the battle prescience is for Atreides. And just to let you know, for the Bene Gesserit, the voice is the only thing you can Karama, and for the Atreides, it's the battle prescience is the only thing you can Karama. So there's only one thing for each faction, and that means that a sheet like this, or God forbid, like this, becomes much more simple. And I've seen, like, a lot of people have these references. They've got little reference cards that let you know all of, it's by faction. And then everyone's got a card for every other faction so that you can know what it is. And it's handy to have those, but I feel like we shouldn't have to live in a world where that is necessary. Makes it much more simple if you can know that. The other thing that I have done, and this is kind of on a related note, but I have actually split the Karama card into two cards. I actually have a Solaris card that does all it does is the purchase of shipment of forces, and it's none of this bid more spice. It's just when it's your turn to bid, you play the Solaris card and you just get the card. So there's no more of this I bid infinity, I bid infinity plus one nonsense that some people to this day still employ. This idea, I understand people like the idea of bidding something up and then not doing it, but I just feel like there's enough going on in Dune. We don't need this. So I am willing to sacrifice that little element in here because I don't like the idea of you have an effect that you can trigger from a card without playing the card. It just seems, I don't like it. So I've split that up. The actual Karama is all about stopping the stopping the one advantage that can be affected, and also triggering your once per game ability, which is on the faction sheets in my physical version of it. So those are my thoughts on overhauling Karama. Weigh in with you. What is your reaction to this? That's why I do a lot of these videos, is to just see what people think. And let me know if you've done anything of a similar nature, or even something wildly different from that, or if you like this. Do you like this sort of thing where you have to be a mentat, or you consult the good book where you're looking things up like, all right, this is what I want to try to do. I want to do this, and all right, immediately after the shipment is announced, great, and I've got that, and we all have a copy of this, or we're passing it around. I just don't think this is the best way to go. And, we tried to make it as accessible as possible. But, of course, this was only good for Expansion 1. As you can see, this is the rule book for that. So it's not a comprehensive one that's on the back of the rule book for Expansion 2 or 3. It's just, for those two factions in each of those expansions. So still isn't one handy reference. And presumably, with the Kwisatz Haderach edition, reference cards for these sorts of things would be part of it. So if nothing does get changed, I expect that in some capacity there will be a comprehensive, I don't know if it's going to look like this, but again, if nothing does get changed, you kind of sort of need it to be like this. So once again, let me know your thoughts on the Karama. I should point out that, I've got, there is an Ilya-style version of this art that somebody put on the internet. So I am using that for my Karama cards, so that all of the treachery cards have got some kind of art. And then the Solaris, I just made one that looks like futuristic money. So there you have it. That's it for this one, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we will see you again soon.